Hello, my name is Asa, and this is my Lab 4 report for physics. In this lab, I analyzed and modeled a two-dimensional spring mass system. The mass oscillates vertically on a spring while also swinging in an arc, and I use this video analysis option for this experiment. The main goal of this lab was to analyze the motion of a 2D spring mass system, compare the experimental data with the computational model, and then to investigate whether the energy principle is satisfied. Additionally, I estimated the oscillation period in both the x and y directions. Even though the motion looks complex, the physics behind it can be understood using the same basic principles from simple harmonic motion. For this experiment, I used tracker software to analyze the video file of the spring mass system. I first calibrated the video using the known reference length, and then tracked the position of the mass frame by frame. The x and y position were extracted from tracker and saved as a file for input into the model. It's important to note that I only exported the data, not the time, as required for the code. I then used the code to generate a model of the spring mass system. The model included two forces: gravitational force, which was downward, and the spring force, which depended on the spring constant k, the spring's length L, and the displacement vector. I set the initial position and the velocity based on the tracker data, and then used a small time step to ensure accuracy. The code calculates the motion of the mass over time, updates the spring orientation, and then plots the energy change as well as the position in both directions. Here we can see the comparison between the model and the experimental data. The blue curve represents the model prediction, while the red curve shows the data from tracker. The x position versus time and y position versus time plots indicate that the model closely follows the observed motion, although there are minor deviations over time. Overall, the trends in both directions match well, validating the computational approach. Next, I analyzed the energy changes in the system. The kinetic energy is shown in blue, gravitational potential energy is in red, and then the spring potential energy is in green. The orange curve shows the total energy change. We can see that the energy transfers between kinetic, gravitational, and spring, but the total energy remains nearly constant. This demonstrates that the energy principle is satisfied for this system. From this analysis, we can conclude that the total energy of the system is effectively conserved. Small fluctuations in the total energy are present, but they are primarily due to numerical errors from the stimulation or small measurement errors in the tracker data. Overall, this principle holds true for the 2D spring mass motion. I also estimated the oscillation periods in both horizontal and vertical directions. Then using the x data, the period is approximately 2 seconds. For the y data, about 1.5 seconds. I measured this time between peaks in the direction to estimate these. The difference in these periods occurs because the motion is two-dimensional and coupled. Unlike a simple vertical or horizontal oscillation, the mass swings while also stretching the spring. The horizontal and vertical motions influence each other, which causes the periods in x and y to differ slightly. This illustrates how real-world motion can combine multiple simple harmonic behaviors into a more complex pattern. In conclusion, this model successfully replicates the experimental motion. The energy principle was verified, and the periods of oscillation were reasonably estimated in both directions. This lab demonstrates that even complex two-dimensional oscillatory motion can be understood and predicted using these fundamental physics principles: Newton's law and energy conservation. Thank you.